I know. Margaret. Margaret. Welcome to the May 19th meeting of the Mobile City Planning Commission. I would like to take a moment to review our general operating procedures. Our meeting is divided into two sessions, the public hearing session and the deliberation session. In the public hearing session, an application or group application on the agenda will be called where the applicant makes his or her presentation. Commission members will ask questions, and members of the public will be allowed to make comments. Only 4 people may speak for an agenda item and 4 people against. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes, subject to questions by the commission. After 4 minutes, a speaker will hear a loud beep indicating 1 minute left to speak. We'd ask that you summarize your comments. After all opposition speakers have finished, an applicant will be given time to respond. If you do intend to speak, please come to the podium at the bottom of the stairs, speak into the microphone, give your name and address for our minutes. Direct all your comments to the commission only and do not give any comments to the applicant or the audience. And please remember to speak directly into the microphone. On routine applications, the applicant may simply raise his or her hand if there are no objections to the staff recommendations. I will then announce that the applicant is in full agreement with those recommendations. If there are questions, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond. After hearing all the applications in the public hearing session, we will go to the deliberation session. In that session, commissioners discuss each application with input from staff as necessary, but with no input from the audience. Commissioners will then vote on each application, and the results of the voting can be learned from the planning department. If some issues arise in the deliberation that were not addressed in the public hearing, we have the discretion to allow additional comments and resolve them or call for the application to be held over for discussion at a future meeting. Occasionally, one or more commission members may recuse themselves from discussing and voting on a given application. A recusal does not necessarily mean the member is directly involved with the application or the applicant, but depending upon the circumstances, ethical rules may require a recusal when there is only the slightest appearance of a conflict of interest. The Planning Commission makes final decisions subject to appeal on subdivisions, planning approvals, and planned unit developments, or PUDs, and it's noted that the Planning Commission only makes recommendations on zoning applications, with the City Council making the final decision. At this time, please turn off all your cell phones or turn them to vibrate or silent. Commissioners and staff, please remember to turn on your microphones when speaking. At this time, I'll call the roll. Myself, Jay Stubbs, present. Mr. Alan Cameron, Ms. Jennifer Denson, Mr. Carlos Gant, Ms. Shirley Sessions.
Here.
Mr. Taylor Atchison.
Here.
Mr. Matt Anderson. Mr. Nick Amberger.
Here.
Mr. Scott Jones. Ms. Susan Carley. Mr. Kirk Matei. We have a quorum, and I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda for May 19th.
So moved.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We will move on to number 1, extension. This is 7858, 7860, and 7900 Ziegler Boulevard. Staff has recommended a 1-year extension. And is the applicant present? In agreement with 1 year and that future extensions will be unlikely. Is there anyone else here to speak for this extension? Anyone here to speak against? Seeing none, we'll move on to new subdivision application. Agenda item 2, 4551 Range Line Road. It's been recommended for tentative approval with 13 conditions. Is the applicant present? Are you in agreement with the conditions? Is there anyone else here to speak for agenda item 2? Anyone here to speak against? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda 3, 2665 Hillcrest Road, Vushan Subdivision. It's been recommended for tentative approval with 7 conditions. Is the applicant present? In agreement with the conditions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
If I may bring to the attention of the commission, you do have comments on this application regarding several large live oaks that should be preserved. Those comments have been forwarded to the urban forester, as the property is undeveloped R1 property. The removal of any trees will require permitting through the urban forester.
Mr. Byrd, you're aware of that? Good to go there. Anyone here to speak for agenda item 3? Anyone here to speak against? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 4, 3601 Stein Avenue. Recommended for tentative approval with 10 conditions listed. Is the applicant present? In agreement with all conditions? Is there anyone else here to speak for agenda item number 4? Anyone here to speak against? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 5 under new sidewalk waiver applications.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead.
We received an email from the applicant this morning. They are unable to attend, but via email, they are requesting the application be withdrawn.
So number 5, 5791 Swedetown Road, sidewalk waiver application is withdrawn.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to agenda item 6 under group applications, 6563 Addison Woods Drive. We have a subdivision and we have a PUD. The subdivision's been recommended for tentative approval with 7 conditions. And the PUD has been recommended for approval, have 4 findings of fact and 6 conditions. Is the applicant present?
I haven't heard from the applicant, although we did communicate with them. It's my understanding they have no concerns regarding the conditions. I would bring to the commission's attention as well that there are comments on this regarding the project as initially approved as a retirement community. They're concerned about reduction in setbacks and site coverage could create a parking problem. However, this is an individual home with adequate parking.
Well, can you explain what exactly they're changing here?
Okay. They self-imposed their own setbacks that along the rear or west property line here are greater than standard setbacks. And then due to topography, this concrete pad is really an elevated deck. So the deck is encroaching into the recorded setback. So they are altering this setback. It does increase their site coverage, but the reduction in setback, again, it's still more than is required by the standard zoning ordinance, and it is adjacent to what is really a large common area for this site. All of this area is actually part of the overall development. What happened was they initially, or I say initially, they had this approval. Then they came in back, I'm going to say March, please don't quote me on the date, but it was recently, for 4 of the lots on the west side of this street for the same exact issue. It was initially held over because their narrative did not coincide with their schematics. None of the dimensions matched up in their request, etc. So it was held over to allow them to submit a revision. Yes, there is. Yes. As a matter of fact, you can get, I don't know that you can really get a feel from the topo from this. We have not dealt with this specific lot. The commission has dealt with 4 others on this same street on this side of the street. I did practically beg the developer to please go ahead and just submit everything else, but he said this was the last lot under construction along the west side.
There are a couple of things in here that
Oh, that is in regard to the subdivision plat. The subdivision plat has certain specific elements that are required by standards of public land surveying and things of that nature. But what they're building and where it is shown on this plan. They simply, in terms of that subdivision plat, have to convert all of this to the proper plat.
The thing that's a little bit more troubling for me is where they make the statement, the home's already complete. So, I think we got the chicken before the egg here. You've already done the work, and now you're coming to ask for a waiver. So what happens if we said no at this point? I think you have a problem.
I don't disagree with that, and that was really somewhat what the situation on the previous lots. I will say, in this situation and with the other 4 lots that the commission dealt with, it's less than a foot, and it really was brought to light because of the topography. If this were a patio completely at grade with no rails, it would not have to comply with setbacks. It would not be considered a structure. On the west side, yes, this is. I can't tell you for sure on that.
Are you looking for neighbors?
Most of them are built out. I've been in that area recently, Nick, and I think most of them are
Yeah.
built out.
You have a couple.
I think it would behoove them to have a note sent to them and say, in the future, please make sure that
Right.
if there's an issue, it's resolved prior to final construction. This is not a major deal, like you say, and I don't have a problem with it.
It's incorrect. And it has to comply with the recorded setbacks on the plat. I do think it was one of those things when construction began, and they started having to form things up, they realized. But the horse was out of the barn.
It was a side setback, and they've already got to do setbacks. The body might be saying no, and somebody tearing down the side of the house.
Any further comments from commissioners? With the applicant not present, is there anyone else here to speak for this agenda item? Is there anyone here to speak against? At this time, we'll close the public hearing session and move on to deliberation. Back to agenda item number 1, extensions. Been recommended for approval for 7858, 7860, and 7900 Ziegler Boulevard. The applicant is present and in agreement with a 1-year extension. Entertain a motion.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The extension passes. Number 2, new subdivision application for 4551 Range Line Road. Been recommended for tentative approval. The applicant is present and in agreement with the 13 conditions listed. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve based on staff recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda item 3, 2665 Hillcrest Road, been recommended for tentative approval. Applicant's present and in agreement with the 7 conditions. Will entertain a motion.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Number 4, 3601 Stein Avenue has been recommended for tentative approval with 10 conditions. We'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve based on staff recommendations.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda item 5 has been removed from the agenda. Final agenda item under group applications, number 6, 6563 Addison Wood Drives. We will take these separately between the subdivision and the PUD. The applicant is not present, but with further commentary from staff and commissioners, we have a recommendation for tentative approval on the subdivision. Entertain a motion. Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? On the PUD, has 4 findings of fact with 6 listed conditions. Entertain a motion. Properly moved and seconded with findings of fact B and C. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. That'll conclude the agenda item. We have other business for the adoption of the 2022-2023 meeting and deadline schedule. Everybody should have a copy in front of them at this time. Are we just looking for serious conflicts or entertaining a motion to approve the schedule?
We need to go ahead and have a motion to approve because we need to publish the schedule.
Motion to approve this suggested calendar.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The meeting and deadline schedule for 2022 and 2023 has passed and can be published. Any further business from staff?
I would just like to ask, if there's any commission member that does not want me to send them a calendar for the meeting date, if you would just let me know after the meeting. Otherwise, I will send everybody a calendar appointment.
And at this time, we will have one comment from me with respect to summer coming around and your schedules. Please pay attention to our meeting schedule and notify staff appropriately of your attendance or not attendance.
The one thing on that, just to let you know, you do only have one meeting in July. Usually you receive the link from Marie. Whoever sends you the link, if you would reply to them and Victoria Birch, so that way we know. Usually Victoria's copied as well.
Yeah. When I send the staff reports, I do have it in the 2 file, in the 2 space. It's to me and Victoria. So if you just hit reply all and hit yes or no, that's perfect.
All righty, meeting adjourned.